We people are tool-using creatures. So we use our hands and we use our eyes in combination to manipulate the world. Those are our primary tools to manipulate the world. We see something, we reach out, we grab it, we experience it. And that is essential to what it is to be a human being. And user interfaces in the past have always tried to approximate that. I saw myself with my kid. She picked up a tablet interface at 2 years old in a matter of days, and it took her a lot longer to figure out how to use a mouse and a keyboard. So again, you can see the more visceral it is, the closer the user experience is to actually the human experience of reaching out and touching objects and manipulating them, the better the computer interface is. So that's always been my dream, is to create like the ultimate computer interface for human beings. But I do think that it's a problem that we now have solved, and it's giving us a tremendous amount of power to create a really, really visceral, engaging experience that really gives people a sense of presence. This really inspired me. Look what he does here. Looks at the wall, wants it, grabs it, looks like a badass. Right? Like, we can do this in Altspace. We can actually do this. Like in the previous input system, for example, if you had an interactable that was on the floor, it was really hard to reach down and pick it up. Like sometimes you try to reach down, you lose tracking as you went down, especially if you had Oculus Touch, and you couldn't even pick up the object. Now you just look at it, aim, grab, it comes to your hand. So just a very, very simple little example. And when I was trying to design the input system originally, I was talking about, Altspace can have its Iron Man moment. So I just want to remind you guys what that's about. Right, so here he has a holographic object, and he just naturally plays with it, manipulates it, and he's doing useful work. All right, so first thing you'll notice, dual cursors, right? What I'm really hoping to do is just have like a little button on your wrist, and you poke it, and you can turn the cursor on. You poke it, you turn the cursor off. And you can do it with either hand. So that way you could have left-hand cursor, right-hand cursor, or both cursors at the same time, and it would just be that natural just to turn it on and off like that. Dual cursors, again, feel really natural because you have two hands in the real world, and now you can manipulate things two-handed. I'm going to show you a bunch of other little things here. So the desktop's got a bunch of widgetry around it, which is really good for demoing the input system. So you guys have all seen the pen tool, and this is a good example of what I call a physical tool. There's really two types of tools. One of them is physical, which means that it actually exists in the world, like it floats there in the world. Everyone can see it, you can grab it, you can release it, it's there, you can use it, right? And the other type of tool, which isn't as obvious, is like what I call ephemeral tools. And those tools sort of go into your virtual hand when you target something that needs that tool, right? So I can, like, as soon as I'm targeting the desktop, you can see the cursor goes to an arrow, and you're actually using a virtual mouse against the Unity UI. And then if I go and aim at something else, you'll see the cursor changes again. Every time the cursor is changing like that, a new tool is like an invisible tool is being put into my hand. And that tool allows me to manipulate the object and drive precisely the input to the object that the object needs. For example, you could have a two-dimensional Polaroid camera, you could grab it, you could then, while you're grabbing it, the trigger could then become the shutter, and then this thing could, this could become the zoom for the camera, and we can just do that. It'd be totally natural. You just grab the camera, shoot, and you can do it. Here we have our camera. And I can just grab that and start taking pictures. And this is just a simple little camera tool. When I targeted the camera, when I grabbed the camera, it asked for the camera tool to be put into my hand. And now it is. And you can see I'm manipulating the camera, I can move it around. But you could imagine a much more sophisticated camera, which would actually look like, a DSLR or something. And when you took the picture, like a little Polaroid shot would come out. You could grab the Polaroid and you could take it and zoom it and make it 6 feet large and stick it on your wall. And that's the kind of thing I want to do. So here we have a browser panel and another browser panel. And I can reach out and grab both. And it's completely natural. So now they're about 10 feet away from me. And just like Keanu Reeves going for his sword or whatever that thing is, I can just target them, grab, there they are. Now I have full 6-dot freedom to move them any way I want. I can also push them away from me. I can shrink them. I can summon them into my hands. You can manipulate two things because you have two cursors, right? You can even move the whole desktop with the panels and put it anywhere you want. So I also mentioned that in order to make this work in Altspace, you need to be able to gracefully fall back to lesser devices, right? So if I fall back to the mouse now, you'll notice that as soon as I started using the mouse, my 6-DOF controllers went away and the mouse cursor showed up, and now I'm basically in mouse mode. So I can click on this box, and now when I move my head, I can control rotation. I can move the window around me like this. I can use the right button to move the object further away and bring it back. I can use the scroll wheel to make it bigger and smaller. And again, so if I want to put it on that wall and all I have is a mouse, I can do that. So when you create a virtual mouse tool, that virtual mouse tool requires things like primary button 1, button 2, button 3, mouse wheel, right? And then I have a mapping architecture which allows you to map the buttons on whatever controller you're using to those inputs that the virtual mouse tool needs. So that means that as we add new types of controllers, and we probably will be adding lots of controllers in the future, it's not hard to support all the different devices that we have, all the different tools, because all you have to do then is to drive the right inputs, the right physical inputs to the virtual inputs of the tool, and the tool is happy. It doesn't have to care what physical controller you're using. So if you're creating a new hardware device, you would define something I call an action map factory, which basically defines an action map for every type of tool that requires an action map. And then when the tool comes live, it says, please give me the virtual mouse action map. Great, now I'm happy. And I don't have to care how that action map works. Another example I have of that is, let's say, the laser pointer. It doesn't have a laser pointer tool, it just uses the standard gun tool because, it's basically a gun, right? I aim, I shoot, I let go. Here we have a button against the wall, right? I can obviously click on it like we do with the classic input system, but if I get close enough, I can just reach out and manipulate it this way, right? I can open and close the door just like that, and I get a little haptic buzz when that happens. So if I go to the web here, pull this up, there's a keyboard, right? It shows up at a distance, you can mouse over it. You get little tick feedback, haptic feedbacks as you're moving your mouse over it. And you can use both hands at the same time if you want. But because in the new input system you want everything to be able to handle proximity input, I can also grab this keyboard, summon it to my hand, and now as my hands get close to it, you can see that they turn into these silly little styluses. But now I can just start typing away. Because that is a browser surface, and I can use browsers in proximity mode, when I get close enough, my hand turns into a pen, and now I can physically touch and draw. It's not ideal because this is basically just going through the virtual mouse tool, but just the idea of being able to draw on a canvas like that just feels really freaking good in virtual reality. So that's how I want AltspaceVR to feel. I want it to feel like you're a total badass and you're able to manipulate the world, and the world is designed for your convenience and is designed to empower you, unlike the physical world, which is just purely inconvenient all the time. Pretty much all the time. It's an inconvenient world.
Definitely all the time.